Everybody, I am excited for this episode of the Gridiron and Growth podcast. You guys know my host, Ryan Harris, the Super Bowl champion, the best-selling author, incredible speaker. And today our guest is Julius Thomas. Man, all-pro tight end, pro bowler, one of my very best friends, one of the most incredible people, and soon to be Dr. Thomas. Welcome to the show, Julius Thomas, my good man, my
Yeah.
guy.
Oh, man, I'm so hyped to be here with you guys. Two cats that I enjoyed playing with, and respect you guys so much. Not just the type of incredible athletes you were, but what you did off the field and what you continue to do off the field. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scrolling LinkedIn. I'm like, damn, man, Ryan and Beans out there getting it. I got to go get it too. But I'm staying in the healthy competition and staying hungry, and I love seeing all the incredible things you guys are doing in this second career. So, man, I'm excited to be here with y'all and just dive into whatever it is we decide to talk about today.
Well, we'll get to your clinic, and everything and your master's degree, but I want to pick up, you said you're in healthy competition, and you too have made a successful transition from an identity, not just a career, but an identity to something new. What are keys for people who are making a transition away from something and looking at their bright future? What do they need to think about?
Man, that's such a great question. And it's actually funny because this is my second transition. And I feel like I'm starting to become a little bit of an expert, but I don't want to do it no more. Like I'm going to stay in this lane for the next 40. But, I think the transitions, some of the biggest things you have to think about is first, it's going to be hard, right? Like one of the first things I try to help people understand is stop trying to get to the place of comfort, get to the place of easy, established. Man, that is a process. And that process is so far out there. Don't even start thinking about that yet. When you're changing your identity to start hopefully having other people and you yourself seeing yourself differently, one of the first things you have to do is you got to put to bed the old person. Like one of the things I thought about a lot was when I stepped into that first year graduate school program, Julius Thomas, the Pro Bowl tight end, no longer mattered. That guy was last pages, last chapter. I got to earn it all over again. So I think one of the quickest things you should do is step into humility. You have to understand that your reputation matters because it's part of your resume, but it's not necessarily going to help you in what you're doing now. You have to become a student again. You have to approach that with, it's going to be hard. All that shit I was doing, it's great. It's part of my story, but it ain't going to help me today. And how do I climb Mastery Mountain again? And that's been my focus over the last 6 years. And I'm continuing to keep that outlook at life.
I think that's just an incredible outlook. Number one, Ju, you and I have been friends ever since my rookie year. You gave me a lot of confidence as a player, being on practice squad, but you saw something in me. We would talk all the time. We would hang out. You'd also challenge me intellectually in terms of how to think about life. We were both reading books similar to Ryan and I, sharing books back and forth on how to think about mindset and performance. And what you just shared was incredible because I think, I'm going into my third year of retirement now. And that first year, I was trying to find the comfort. That's all I was trying to do. Where can this be comfortable? Where can this be comfortable? I need somebody to do my schedule. I need somebody to do this because it's all been done. And I think I was a little frantic and I was a little bit all over the place. But you said something that's super key in terms of what's that next mountain in terms of mastery. And I had never really thought about it. You and I have conversations, at least once a month, once every other month, really in-depth conversations in terms of mastery and what you are doing. But I think that's super important for the listeners and for people to understand is that what is the knowledge, skill, and discipline? As a pro, you had that knowledge. You go out there on the practice field, you work on your skill, and you do it on Saturdays, Sundays in terms of our sport. And then the discipline to do this day in and day out. I think as athletes transition, or I even think about my mom or dad as they transition out of their professional career, what is that next mountain and mastery and thinking about it. And I love how you said it is going to be hard. So just get ready for it. Just get ready for it.
Yep.
Man,
couldn't agree more.
I think that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do so much working with patients, right? And this has been one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had, because sometimes people say, man, it's you professional athletes that have the greatest performance mindset because of what you talked about, knowledge, skill, and discipline. But I was truly inspired, and I found the people that had the greatest performance mindsets in a rehabilitation hospital. Because now it's one thing to transition from being a pro football player to then trying to become a doctor in clinical psychology. But man, I got all my faculties. I got my cognitive abilities. I got my physical strength. I got my health. But man, I'm in the hospital talking to people that, man, they hit a left-hand turn and now they're in a wheelchair and they're never going to walk again. So you talk about making a transition from a normal, everyday working cat to now you're paralyzed for the rest of your life. Or person is making a transition from having 2 arms to only having 1, 2 legs to only having 1. You talk about how you have to rebuild the life around you and to do it a new way. You talk about changing your identity, going from being a person that's able-bodied to disabled. Now that's a mental challenge and a mental grind. It's greater than anything we're all experiencing. And I say that not to diminish what anybody who listens to this is going through, but let's take this perspective. These people got to get up and they have to reinvent themselves and how they're going to do life based on something that was outside of their control that happened immediately. And now they just have to adjust, change. They have to be able to lean into that process. Same way it's going to be hard for us when we're transitioning, and it's going to be hard for them. And the quicker you just get your mind into the mud, like, damn, I'm staying in some mud. I don't like this mud. When you were playing pro football, you left a real comfortable mountaintop. But I'm always the guy that can be there in the valley. And I keep a slogan in my life because I had it since I left Stockton is I'm willing to get it out the mud. And I know you are willing to get it out the mud. And that's why you guys sit here today, standing on the bricks that you've stacked over the last several years. And this is just the beginning of what y'all about to build.
So, Drew, I do want to double click on just where you are now. You're getting ready to become Dr. Thomas. You have gotten your clinical psychology degree. I believe I'm saying that correct, but I would just love for the audience to know where you are, and then we'll dive into why you left the game of football.
Man, of course. Man, it's been a journey. I will say that I've attacked this next career with more enthusiasm and more knowledge from my past careers than I ever have in my life. Like, I am so hungry to get mastery back. I missed it for such a long time. And for the better part of this last decade, I was really grinding to understand psychology and neuroscience. But when I retired, I decided that, my purpose in life was to help people live better, feel better, and be better. And because I knew that's what I wanted to do, I had to find the right discipline that was going to allow me to be able to do that. And I thought, well, shit, psychology is where they're helping people with this. Because the mental side has always been so important for me. It's been one of my strengths. And I also saw it was an opportunity to help so many people from sitting in locker rooms. Like, it's always me like, man, somebody should help that guy. Oh, that guy's going to need some help one day later in life. And then one day the spirit just tapped me and was like, no, you're the guy. You see it, you go do something about it. And that was my call. And man, I tell you that one of the hardest steps I ever made was going back to school to pursue that doctorate in psychology, because I didn't go to grad school first. I had to go do an entire year of undergrad. And I just felt out of place, man. I'm sitting in there with a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds. I remember being in one of my first classes, the professor was like, who in here has ever applied for an apartment, filled out the application for an apartment? And I'm like, shit. Well, I got 2 houses on different coasts. Like, they're like, they probably looking at me crazy, right? Oh, but just stepping into that, right? Not feeling it. From that moment on, finished that first year of undergrad psych, got the credits I needed, applied to the graduate program, got in, concentrating in clinical health psychology. I've done 1,300 hours of clinical work in mental health, community mental health, rehabilitation hospitals, working on neuropsychology units, stroke, cancer, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, end of life, stuff like that. And then while I was in school, I had this mentor of mine, who's one of the most fascinating and brilliant people I've ever met. She would not stop asking me about brain injuries. And I'm like, why do you keep asking me about brain injuries? She's like, because you play football. How worried were you about your brain? And I'm like, I don't know nothing about my brain. And I wasn't worried. I got some knee injuries that still hurt to this day. I just wanted to get off the field. And she kind of took me under her wing and started to teach me about neuroscience. So me, just trying to be a true student and a glutton for punishment, I decided, well, I'm going to pursue this doctorate. I'm going to learn psychology, but at the same time, I'm also going to learn the discipline of neuroscience. So now I'm actually a professor of neuroscience at Nova Southeastern University, where I go to school, International Honor Society in Psychology, Master's in Clinical Psych, Vice President for Society of Sports Neuroscience, work with a lot of the different groups in the NFL. On the PA side, the Football Players Health Study at Harvard, and then now on the NFL side with their Player Care Foundation, and they have like a clinical advisor council. So it's cool to have joined that and met some awesome former players that are in clinical space. And then outside of that, man, my main focus is my company and just building mastery development. I think the pursuit of mastery is such an important part of life, but what it does for people psychologically, what it does for people professionally. And I wanted to help people with that process. I want to see people be great, and I'm going to be there in their corner with them as they achieve greatness in their life.
Now, you talk about mastery, and I love that word. It's in my book and that thing, and that's something that the three of us on this have attained in a skill. And yet I find that mastery is the thing that makes people quit. That they get to a point, and it's like either you got to go all the way in. And, for me, that was getting out to practice a little early and hitting the pads a little early, taking notes, highlighting them at night. Like that was the next step. But so many people don't want to take that step that they're right against. What do you think prevents people from seeking mastery in their crafts and in their workplaces?
Man, what's very interesting is from a human psychological perspective, our brains were not designed to relentlessly pursue things. That's just not the way our nervous system was designed. Our nervous system was designed to go get the easy things, right? Think about it like your dog. If you put your dog's favorite treat 10 feet from them, and then you put their favorite treat a mile down the road, your dog's never walking that mile. They're gonna be like, why would I do that? It's right here, right? And so many people have to understand that our brains just want survival, but our minds want goals. And what I see a lot when I work with people is they tell me what their goal is. And Beans knows, because he laughs when we talk about this, and I say, nothing irritates me more than when a person's goals and their behaviors don't match. I don't give a shit what your goals are. Make sure your behaviors match. If it looks like this, I'm going to get irritated quickly because it's apparent why you're not getting it. And so I use this analogy of a mountain because it just makes sense to me, right? When I was younger, I used to watch old Kung Fu movie. When you want to go master a kick or a sword, you got to climb that mountain, and then there's that guy at the top, and he grinds you, right? But it's important for people to realize is that you don't get to tell the mountain the price you want to pay to get to the top. The mountain didn't give a shit. It didn't ask you. It gives you the bill. Every discipline you want to be great at, that discipline says, here's what it takes. But so many people try to negotiate with mastery. Mastery is more powerful than you. It's been here longer. It's going to be here after. There's no negotiating with it. You just pay the price. And the quicker you decide, oh, well, that's just what I got to do, and you start leaning into it, you start staying up late, doing the highlighting, getting early to practice, stretching, building your body, whatever it is, just start heading in the way. It's going to help your goals and your behaviors match. And that's when mastery starts becoming something that's like a treadmill under your feet. And then every single year, man, you're getting closer to where you want to be, instead of feeling like, oh man, I keep running into these walls. So climb it.
How important is it, just in your thoughts and your opinion, how important is it when people do run up, if they want to become a master at something, how important is the why? Because I feel like a lot of people feel like they want to go in this direction, but they don't actually know why they want to go in that direction. I think, from what you've shared on the call and what I know about you, there was a clear why behind why you're going to go to undergrad and then go get your graduate and become a master in psychology and neuroscience and to help people. How much is the why? How important is that?
Well, I think the why is really important because in the behavioral neuroscience of motivation, the brain is really concerned about two things. And it's so crazy when you start to learn the neuroscience is the brain cares about the costs and the rewards. And every single time you have to make a decision to take action, your brain does a cost benefit analysis. It says, what's the cost required to obtain that? And what's the value of that? And if the costs are higher than the value, there's going to be no motion. There's going to be no motivation. You're not going to take action. But if the rewards are higher than the costs, it's like, oh, I'm right there. And I use this example when I speak to companies and groups and I say, if I told you that there's $600 million in a gold chest right behind the stage, how many of you guys would get your ass up and want to climb back there to get 600 million? Everybody's hand goes up. But I'm going to tell you right now, Ryan, Beans, there's $600 million of sunken gold at the bottom of the sea. But nobody went out there to go get a submarine to try and go find that, right? $600 million was the same. The cost was different. Chest behind the stage, go get to the bottom of the ocean, possibly die, not find it, all these things. So your brain goes, not taking action. So one thing I try to do where I want to help people start to leverage and like really hack the way their brain works is have to think about the relative reward of what they're going to do. And that's what I think when people have been saying the why is important. It's because some people have made the reward so important, right? When you think about your Kobe's, when you think about your Jordans, what was their why? They wanted to be a champion. So they were willing to pay any cost. There was nothing more important than that why or that reward. So all this was nothing. So when people are like, man, how do I be more effective in attaining the things that I'm searching for in life? My thing is tell yourself how important it is. Tell yourself how amazing it will feel. Tell yourself about what it's going to do for your family when you get it. Or like say you in Ryan's place, right? And you're getting ready to go back to law school. I know why he's there. He's there to help people. He's there to serve others. He's going to read any book and he's going to write whatever they ask him to write because he knows that one day he's going to be sitting down there in a courtroom and he's going to give somebody the business to protect another person. That's the why. But at the same time, that's also the reward. So we got to make sure as people, we start thinking about what we after and what it means to us, and then think about it all day long. Never stop.
What about a time when you weren't willing to pay the cost? Take us there. I mean, Benny and I have got those moments, but when was a time you, Julius Thomas, Professor Thomas, soon to be doctorate, money bag having man, when were you not willing to pay the cost and it kind of shocked you?
I will be the first person to admit I've done the inner reflection. There have been times in my life where I had a bad attitude, and that bad attitude prevented me from paying the cost. One of the main places I had a bad attitude was when I played basketball. I thought I wanted to be a good basketball player, but what I know now, I'm just like, no, that young dude, he didn't want it that bad because he didn't want to pay the cost. I had a conceptual idea that the goal of life was to be able to get what you want by just getting over the bar. My goal in life was to get as close to the bar as possible while getting over it. And that was me. I woke up as that dude for so many days. And I tell people all the time, one of the hardest things for me to do in life is to finish strong. Man, I grew up in a neighborhood. I grew up in a culture of people that would be like, oh yeah, that's good enough. Oh yeah, that's close enough. I'm not going to do everything the way, I'm not going to do everything the same at all times. Like I'm going to realize like, man, this class, right? I got a good grade in this class. But that teacher assigned that last project, I could get a C on this and still get a B. Bet. I was that guy. And I was taking that and making that decision so often in my life. And I think it wasn't until I got to the NFL where I realized that that's a bad attitude and that's preventing you from stepping into the greatness that you have. And I will still be honest. Every single time I get to the end of the semester and the assignments come out and you want to go do the math in the grade book, it still hits me. But now I remind myself, no, that's weak. And I think the other thing about mastery, and I don't think it gets talked about enough, is the greatest people in the world, the most successful, the highest performers, they talk crazy to themselves in their head. Like the way I talk to myself in my head is crazy. If people could hear that inner dialogue, they'd be like, oh, you're a monster in there. Like There's no kindness to parts of my mind trying to sabotage what I'm after. And it comes up all the time, man, to be honest.
Let's double click on the NFL and you shifting your mindset, reframing, having a bad attitude and reframe that, because I felt similar, wanted to be a basketball player in high school, went to an incredible basketball high school, went to college, was an average receiver. You look at my college when you're like, there's no way he's going to play 8 years. But literally the first week I got into the NFL and I was in that meeting room with you, Peyton, Demarius, Wes Welker, it was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is how it has to be done. So talk to me about just that shift for you as you walked into an NFL locker room, because I felt a similar thing.
Oh, well, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and people talk so much about performance, and I get to laugh and I go, man, performance is never something that's just, these words on the paper, these things that I'm going to put on a book, because there's something that we're not able to quantify, and that's competitiveness. I'm skating by because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to monitor my effort levels, right? Like I'm trying to do just enough to get to where I'm going. And that's the way your brain works. And my brain works that way. And I'm sure other people's do too. But there's a competitiveness factor that's just different. The best people and the best performers in the world, they're so competitive. And so I imagine that when you walked into that room, you were like, it doesn't matter what my habits were. It doesn't matter the way I was moving before I got here. But you know what I don't want to happen? I don't want somebody to come, walk up to me and say, hey, let me get that iPad and that playbook. You're no longer welcome here. And for me, that was what hit. It was like, I kept getting into this new arena. And that first arena for me was the combine. It was like, what's the guy that's been playing football for 10 months from Portland State doing here at the combine? And I was asking myself the same shit in the elevator, like, wow, I'm really here at the combine. Well, never saw this coming in life, but I wasn't about to look weak when I got there. So I'm hitting the training in a different way than I ever hit training. When I got to the NFL, I walked into the locker room and Ryan, you'll notice, a guy named Wesley Woodyard, he walked up to me as I was scooping breakfast. And he said, oh, you're the basketball guy. We decided as a linebacker group that we're not going to let you catch a ball in training camp.
At breakfast.
In breakfast. First, I don't even know what I'm doing in the NFL. I'm like, damn, they happy. I put them headphones in. They put that 50 on. Okay, it's time to get it. And I get out there snapping and busting ass because I'm competitive. And I always allow that competitiveness to be present when I'm pursuing things, because that's important. And I think that there's different levels of competitiveness. And I think I want you guys to think about this like throughout the next week, month. Do you think that people's inner competitiveness levels predict what they achieve and attain in life? And you guys are going to start thinking about people in your life, and you go, Tim, right. That person was just a little bit more competitive. They probably would have then got that. And so that's one thing that I could recognize that wasn't talked about enough in professional circles and on teams is the competition factor is there, because you're looking left and you're looking right and you're like, man, it's either you or me. And competitors like, well, that can't be me.
Winner and loser on every play. Winner and loser on every play. And those practices, my rookie year, were the most intense practices I have ever seen in my 8 years, because Aqib Talib, first year there. TJ Ward, first year there. Emmanuel Sanders, first year there. DeMarcus Ware, first year there. And all these people are signed up to only win one thing. And it was nuts. When I showed my receiver coach from Michigan State my receiver film, and I had just been out of college for 5 months. And he was like, what happened? I was like, that's the environment. You either come to that standard or you will stand out like a sore thumb on that film. And you do not want to be called out in that meeting room, because Peyton's running that meeting.
Yeah. You don't want to be called out. You don't want to be embarrassed. And ultimately, you don't want to get asked to leave. Like I tell people, and I don't say it as nice as maybe I should, because sometimes that's just my personality. But when I go to corporate events and I talk to people and I say, you know what's crazy about corporate? Like, you guys want performance. And you say like, no, performance is important. I'm here to teach you performance. And I say, but the interesting about your industry is you apply for open jobs. Think about that for a second. When you're a corporate professional, they say, hey, there's a spot available. No one's in it. Who here would like to have this job? And then you see that and you're like, oh man, that looks like a great next step for me. You fill out your resume, send it in. Somebody looks at it, goes, okay, there's 20, calls 2, picks. In the NFL, there's no open positions. Every single time they start the year, there's more bodies than chairs, just like musical chairs back in the day. And you know that feeling you felt when you went around a thing and there wasn't no chair for you, right? That's the NFL every year. And not to mention, is that position filled? There's a dog in that position. There's a bad man that wants that job. He wants that job. Because I tell people all the time, when I showed up as a rookie, Dan Fales, my vet, love him, love his family, great dude, but it came down to him moving or me moving. And it's not easy to move a man and his wife and his kids up out of the city. Think about how he's fighting for that. But that's what we face every single season. One of us is moving. One of us is going to walk back in the house, have to ask your family to sit down on the couch and say, Dad lost his job today. That still puts a fire in me. I don't want that feeling. I want to make sure that I keep walking in my house and I keep telling my sons and my woman, it's good. Where we want to go this weekend. I don't want that feeling. So that's the pursuit. It's different, right? That's a competitiveness that's different. And that's what you're talking about. You felt that first year when you got to Denver because a bunch of cats looked around the room and was like, wait, there's dogs in here. And I'm going to raise my level or I'm going to get embarrassed.
Well, let's talk about something that is in the corporate and NFL space. And we've kind of danced around it a little bit. It's a part of competitiveness. It's a part of performance. But let's talk about fear. I mean, so many times I would see in the locker room guys who would act out or have their music blaring. And I'm just thinking, man, they're so afraid that they can't even articulate it, right? And nobody wants to be afraid. But man, I could see it all the time. How does one recognize fear in their own life and get beyond it?
That's a great question. And oftentimes my answers are not the pretty ones. And the reason why I say that is because I study a approach in psychology called acceptance and commitment therapy. And acceptance and commitment therapy is one of the most evidence-based treatments that you can do with a person, but it's not for everybody because there's this one concept in acceptance and commitment therapy that people just really struggle to get with. And the concept is that the person that's doing ACT therapy is not trying to reduce your symptoms. There is no emphasis focused on reducing symptoms. And some people are like, well, what do you mean? I came to therapy because I don't want to feel fear anymore. I came to therapy because I don't want to feel sad anymore, on and on and on. But in acceptance and commitment therapy, we tell people you need to make space for fear in your life. You need to make space for sadness in your life. If I'm working with a person that has social anxiety disorder and they're 45 and they tell me, hey, you know what, JT, what I'm really looking for is a quick solution. What? You've had social anxiety for 45 years. You think that there's just going to be some aha thing that removes this from you? No, this is something that you have to walk into over and over and over again. And then over time, the physiological response will reduce. Like I really want to do an entire module and I want to call it the anxious athlete because I'm honest enough and vulnerable enough to say that I was a person that probably had mild to moderate, somewhere in there, anxiety a lot of the time in my professional sports journey. When I showed up to Denver as a 4th round pick after playing 11 months of football, well, I was as nervous and afraid as you could possibly be. Cats used to catch me on the sideline, standing, getting ready to go in the game, and I would be reaching back and wiping my cleats with my hand like I was getting ready to walk onto the court. Yeah, I'm shaking, I'm nervous, I'm not sleeping all night before the game. But you step into it. You step into it. You don't get to determine the physiological arousal that you're going to have. Because if we had control of that, we'd all just turn it off. What you get to do is you get to keep stepping into it. But over time, as you step into it, it goes down. So when I tell people fear shows up, that's like a defender. You don't kick the defender you're going to go against today. Ryan, you can win up against some bad men, but you stepped into it. When the ball, you come off the ball. And it's not always the prettiest, but that's what happens. So fear it's a part of human life. There's 5 or 6 core emotions: surprise, disgust, fear, anger, happiness, and sadness. All humans are always experiencing all of those all the time. So my thing is, if I got to experience something all the time, then I might as well just get used to it and start telling myself is okay. My very first time I did my first key speech, I couldn't sleep that night. I was in the bed. I had so much anxiety. I had to get my ass out the bed, go take a cold shower, Wim Hof it, bring it down, woke up in the morning, hit the gym, went out onto the stage in front of 1,000 people, still nervous, and killed it. Because you can be the most afraid you've ever been in your life and go out and have the best performance you've ever had. That's the hope I teach people, right? Like, don't think that the physiological arousal you have is going to determine how you perform. It's not that. I do this thing on my social media called Mental Performance Tips for the Pros. I can't tell you how many world champion UFC fighters, tennis athletes, Formula One drivers all talk about the same experience. I was so nervous. I was seeing that guy in my sleep, but I went out there and I knocked his ass out. That's courage. So when we talk about fear, the most important thing we have to do is we have to have the courage to step into any emotion that's hard for us. Man, it's grief, man. My grandpa passed last week. Hard, right? It's hard for me. It's hard for my family. But what's my option? Step into it with courage. Step into it in a way he would have wanted me to, the way he taught me to. Over and over and over, life drops those challenges in front of us. That's how we have to approach it.
I love that.
To wrap it up, Drew, would love to just ask you what's your favorite Peyton story.
All right, well, we can't wrap it up with that because I got to ask Ryan a question because there's this whole trending topic and I needed to get his perspective on it. My favorite Peyton story, and I tell people this all the time because it was one of the realest stories. It just like someone of the time, Peyton does some shit, man, just make you like, wow. So during the week, it's like a Wednesday, and people don't understand, like when you play with Peyton, he doesn't want to tell you twice, and he doesn't care when he mentioned it to you. He expects you to remember it, even if it's weeks down the road. This one was more immediate. So we're getting ready to play the Raiders. It's like a Thursday. He comes up to me. You know, Peyton's always walking around with his iPad like, everywhere he goes. Like, you know, I love football and studying, but I wasn't at that level. He's eating lunch with the iPad. So at some point, we're at practice. He walks up to me. He's like, Julius, come here. Hey, what's up, Pete? Hey, I'm seeing this thing on film. That's safety. When he gets real horny for that deep hook. So when you run that deep hook, man, I want you to run that thing at him. Go 2 yards past your depth. Make him think that you're about to get that deep hook. Turn around, and I'm going to hit the post over the top. And he's like, I'm just going to look at you when you're standing up there in the 2-point, like, because I used to do a lot of 2-point even when I was at the Y spot. And I'm just going to tell you, like, yeah, no. So we're in the third quarter. We're in Oakland. And sure enough, he looks at me. He calls the play, looks at me, nods. Hey, JP. Okay, I got you. I run. I come off the ball. I'm hauling ass. I'm running down. I'm talking about, I'm standing on the DB's toes before I turn around. I turn around, I look up, the ball is going over the top. DT catch a 60-something, 70-yard post route for touchdown. I'm like, he really fucking called that 4 days ago and it happened. When his ass runs by me, right? He running. He goes, JT, what I fucking tell you? He said, look, if I tell you it's Easter, don't check the calendar. Just start hiding fucking eggs. I said,
Hey, we know that man. Hey, we know that man. Hey, he ain't right.
Hide, really. And I stole that. So now I'm saying it all the time. Look, man, if I tell you it's Easter, don't check the calendar. Just start hiding eggs. That's one of my favorites.
That must have been photo. That was photo.
It might have been.
That post and hit.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, that was the concept. Yeah, photo. See, look, man, you years out, you still know still know all the concept names. So I'm laughing, right? Because I like watching the game of football sometimes, but I think everything now is a little funny to me because it's hard. It's unfortunate. Things happen that are frustrating. And I'm watching the Lions. They played And then the ref was
Oh,
like,
Dallas.
they were playing Dallas, right? So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching this. And then I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if he really reported. Because, like, like Biggs, you didn't play receiver, or you didn't play tight end, but for tight ends, right? And Ryan, you were the report guy.
Hey,
So many
verbal
times.
confirmation.
So
Verbal
many times.
confirmation.
When me and you done been in many goal lines together, when you get in, hey, Ryan, make sure you report. Hey, and everybody yell out, make sure you report. So when I saw Buddy walk over to the ref, I looked like he was telling him something. But you correct me if I'm wrong. From the video, don't you have to be very demonstrative and it's weird because my girl was asking me, she said, but why do you need to do this? And I was like, I don't know, but you just got to do it for real until they get it. So, like, Ryan, I wanted your take on that. Like, you're good in that position. You've been the report guy. What were your thoughts about that play?
Well, number one, it was a brilliant play. It was a brilliant play design, right? And number two, you have to, and they were trying to kind of muddle who was reporting. That was part of the problem. But you wipe the front of your numbers so that the ref sees that you're an ineligible number reporting eligible. My wife always hated that. She's like, I don't like when they report 68's eligible. He's not, right? But the other thing to me, the biggest thing that I was saying the entire time, don't let the game come down to one play, right? Like, we've all been in games where it could come down to a play, and sometimes it does because the two teams are so talented. And if you have to depend on a trick play to win, you're not doing enough in the game. And I think that's something that's lost on a lot of people that haven't won at a high level. It's like you can talk about that play losing you the game, and you can talk about why that play had to win you the game. And that's where you become a champion, in that spot. And so it was a brilliant play. I hope we see it again. But the complaining and all that, man, it's irrelevant. You shouldn't have been in that position in the first place or run the normal offense,
I like that. I like that a lot. And so, Beans, I got to ask this one to you. What did you think about the Saints scoring on the Falcons in the victory formation? What were your honest thoughts?
My honest thoughts were I loved it. And I wanted to do that so many times. What about you, Beans?
Yeah, I'm in a position, and we're all in a position in the NFL. Stop it from happening. You guys lost 48-17. Okay, you had enough time to stop them, and you guys were playing to get into the playoffs. And I also love it from the New Orleans Saints perspective. You had somebody who broke and tied Barry Sanders' record last year in Detroit with 17 touchdowns, and Jameis wanted to get him a touchdown. Come on, we're playing the last game of the season. Okay, like, I don't really want to hear that. I mean, this game is hard enough as it is. Who knows what Jamal Williams' contract situation will be next year? He's a running back. Who even knows if he's going to be playing next year? So why not get him a touchdown in the last game of the season? Everything they've been through, injuries and things like that, not for long. That's what the NFL stands for. So, hey, if you don't like it, then stop them.
I'm glad you guys feel that way because I was like, this is a little humorous for me. Like, I was really laughing when I saw it. And I was laughing for two reasons, because Ryan knows this, because you've been in your victory formation. I don't want to hear nobody on defense talking about, well, you guys came off the ball and scored. Because I don't care. There's some asshole D lineman every year knows it's victory and comes blasting off the ball, bends one of your fingers back, bruises one. Like, come on. And I guarantee you it happens at every level, every year. One of them just says, to hell with it, I'm upset. The second thing, I never, ever feel bad for the defense. I'm going to keep it real. I still feel the same way today as I feel back then. I don't feel bad for the defense. I don't want to see you in the locker room crying about how you weren't prepared and that wasn't right. Like, the same people that try to break body parts, the same people that target people that are defenseless, now y'all want us all to feel bad for you? Man, get out of here, man.
Well, and then there's another aspect just before we wrap. I want to get the psychological, the neuro feedback on this, because the three of us know there's no way to describe to people outside of the NFL what it feels like to play a division opponent. And the other thing here is you're playing a divisional opponent. But make a story for people that lets them know that kind of mental space when you're going against somebody who you're seeing twice a year. All those rules go out the window. Tell them about that space that you live in as a football player in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, we're talking about football here. We're not talking about the handshaking line. after a youth sporting event. There's a palpable energy that you can feel in the stands, right? Like, let's talk about some of the best rivalries, right? Ask somebody in Pittsburgh right now how they feel about the Ravens. Ask somebody in Minnesota how they feel about the Bears, right? Just go on. Like, the tension and the dislike and distaste at a fan level is palpable. At a player level, you're talking about the same guy. And this is what I'm trying to help people understand. You already watched 6 plays that week about how that guy on defense did you dirty, right? Like, he may not have injured you, but you caught one pass, and when you looked up, he had his helmet coming right for your knee. You had to jump him, flip, and he never felt bad. That same person might have accidentally hit you in the chin, pushed your helmet all the way off your head, the ear pad, the face mask, pepped you in the face, like
scrapes the face. Yeah.
all kind of stuff. I mean, I'm watching all week about how Buddy was coming at me and playing. Like, it would take me a long time to be cool with them, like, period, right? Like, you got to play against, and some of these people you've been playing against for years. He see you, you see him, you're like, yeah, but today is the day. Yep, we can get it today. And, if we in the off-season workout and you're not feeling it, we can get it there too. And it's just that energy. I have no time for D linemen after the game trying to get sympathy from fans because Buddy wouldn't score a touchdown. Nope, not hearing it.
Well, this was unbelievable. Julius, congratulations on all your success. It's really something to be able to talk like this and to have the two of us and Benny and I hear your stories and how well put together you make the analogies. And congratulations to you. More continued success in everything you do professionally.
Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for coming on. Love you, bro. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Love you too. Can't wait to do it again. You guys inspire me. Y'all keep grinding, and I'm chasing you.
See you at the top.